First of all, I'm humbled to just spend some time with you. I've got several of my former professors from graduate school a long time ago inside the room, so I'm very proud to be their student. And in my work at Farm Bureau, right now it's different. I took on a job a couple years ago where I spend more time just helping to build a team and to connect directly with farmers. And it's not a lot different than what I did when I handled environmental work. But some of the things that I've always been passionate about in my time as either a student or working environmental issues is an understanding of spatial data and the temporal need for data. And when I think about the two of those things together, I think of an African proverb that states, it's a little, follow along with me for just a second. The understanding that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And this idea of understanding data and understanding how to use it sometimes feel like they don't always go together. I remember being Dr. Chi's student in a remote sensing class in graduate school, and I remember having a discussion about, wouldn't it be great if we could do a wonderful job of modeling crop growth in a way that uses all of the math that we know how to use. I was in Dr. Ritchie's research group, Dr. Joe Ritchie's research group, where we were using empirical analysis to look at crop growth. If we knew the sun was going to be out for a period of time and so much rain was coming and the temperature was this and that, we could give you an understanding of a place and time of what that crop was doing. It was simple, because that's what Joe loved. If you didn't have a simple equation that was leading something, if it wasn't y equals mx, then you better start over again. But my thought was, if we could understand the microprocesses inside of a plant, couldn't we take those mechanical equations that we believe exist for all those little pieces, and if we could crunch all that data for every plant inside of a field, get a better understanding of at the sub-level, instead of just having high-low temperature that's a state average over a 30-year period, eventually could you get to the point where you could go down to the pixel size of the pictures that we could take. Everybody talks about drones these days and the work that's being done there. It's not new. We flew over our farm in 1999 with an airplane. We flew over it, we took infrared imagery, we looked at vegetative indices that happened on the farm, cranked it down to the best pixel size you could create, and as an engineer you always looked at specific, you weren't going too far beyond the decimal point. You wanted to make sure that the data you were looking at was relevant. At the time, you were frustrated because you had this understanding of the data, the opportunity to store more data, to crunch more information was coming. It just wasn't there yet. The understanding that, wouldn't it be great if we could take this image and break it down to a level where I could understand the true impacts of plant population variability outside in the field. Things have changed. At the time, one of my counterparts was like, you're never going to be able to do that. You're talking about gigabytes of data. Well, here we are. How many of you have a thumb drive in your pocket that's old, that's got 20 gigabytes of data that you can store on it? That ability to look at space and time in a much different frame. When we were 15 years ago, the French had just launched MODIS. So you had this new satellite constellation that was up inside the air. And we thought that was wonderful. I mean, that went on top of the Star Wars satellites that gave us the GPS system. Eventually, we're thinking, my goodness, we're going to have real-time data. And suddenly you were discouraged because satellites only came around once in a while. Well, now that mosaic continues to fill in the space. Might we look at real data every couple hours or in real time in the future with the satellite constellations we have? Furthering this understanding of the difference between space and time. How does information technology continue to get us closer to an understanding of conservation in the field and an understanding of not just conservation, but an understanding of what it takes to make the food that we need? To me, that's the conversation, hopefully the dialogue that we're going to have this morning. Sustainability, I don't know what the definition is. I think it depends on the person and the reason that you might be talking about something is sustainable. I think about some folks believe it to be that maybe we should have smaller farms, and we should have it with an understanding that we're not going to use chemicals, and we're going to better understand the biology of the plants and the bugs to be able to take care of our of our smaller fields with more people? Well, from a reality standpoint today, 50% of the people in this country get their groceries from Walmart. We're having a hard time in labor right now in agriculture. 2 years ago, we let 2.5 million pounds of asparagus rot in the field because we didn't have a way to pick it. There wasn't folks, we advertise in agriculture, we advertise in local newspapers. A friend of mine up in the Traverse City area talked about, he advertised for 3 different cycles for 20 bucks an hour, the equivalent, for picking apples in an orchard, right on Torch Lake. He's got one of the most beautiful orchards you'll ever see. So I was thinking about standing on the bank of Torch Lake, picking gorgeous apples, and you gotta fill a box. You can't sit there with your thumb up your nose all day. You gotta pick the apples to get paid. 2 people showed up after cycling that for 3 weeks. 2 people showed up to pick those apples. Neither of them lasted past noon. We don't have a society today that encourages people to pick apples. We don't aspire our children to have them grow up to be an apple picker. There are a lot of jobs that we're not helping our youth to understand that they can be very fulfilling. That form of sustainability, I think it's wonderful. I think it's fantastic. I wish that we had more folks that were pointed towards doing things on their farms that were more holistic in nature, that got more value for that. If someone was willing to pay me $8 a gallon for milk raised in the way that they want it, perfect. That's perfect. The balance of that is understanding that a lot of people make the decision to buy milk and that it's $1.99 a gallon at Kroger this week. And it's safe and it's affordable. That's their idea of sustainability. When I think about what can information technology do to advance that balance, I met with the West Michigan Food Bank Council a little while ago. And I asked them, what do you need? West Michigan Food Bank Council provides food to those that need it from every place, from all the way from Berrien County, all the way across the Upper Peninsula. That's the area that they cover. It's huge. I said, do you need more food? Nope. They've got over 120 farmers that give product to the West Michigan Food Bank Council. 120 of them just give food because they're generous people. And it fits. There are some times that they've got overproduction, so why let it rot? Why not give it to people who need it? I said, well, do you need people? Do you need volunteers to be able to put this food to use? Nope, got lots of volunteers. What do you need? We need money, but we need to translate that money into a way to get food where it needs to go. We need it to get in the hands of the people who can eat it. We got a lot of miles that we're trucking food across. From an information technology standpoint, could we understand better how to help a group like the West Michigan Food Bank Council to get food from where they have it to where they need it in the most economic sense possible? We're not thinking of that as sustainability holistically. I think about, if you're familiar, anybody familiar with CIMMYT? The research that's done by, it's a center that there are, I believe, 9 of them around the world, that they do a lot of work in wheat breeding and corn production. They have the majority of the germplasm around the world at major facilities around the world. They have made it such, if there are 6 billion people in this world, and the bottom 2 billion of those people make $1 a day, they've made it such that in the same time frame that they've existed, by being able to selectively breed, by being able to utilize genetics in agricultural crops, they've been able to raise that to $2 a day in most of the areas around the world because they figured out how to take crops and put them in places where they couldn't grow in the past. Amazing, amazing stuff. And a lot of it comes from information technology. The ability to understand climate conditions around the world, the use of satellite imagery, the ability to understand that spatial component blended in with the time component and to be able to create products and move them to places we haven't moved them to before. The mosaic is filling in. We're getting closer to a better understanding of the space around us. And yet, we're not catching up sometimes with the way we use that information. In some ways, I think it's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. We're getting a lot of information, so much information. How do you best put that to work? From a conservation standpoint, I've been blessed when working with farmers for a long time in Michigan. They don't intend to lose soil. When they lose soil, they lose production. They don't choose to have that soil enter a stream, because plugging up that stream is money out of their pocket when the drain commissioner says we're going to put a new fee on you to clean out your drain. They don't like it. It's not their intent when it comes to the work that we do in protecting water quality. We raise our families in the same place. It is our every intent to be sustainable in the way that we best do, in that balance between the need to produce a product to be able to keep the farm going and knowing that we're going to protect that agricultural area for future generations. My family's been farming in the same spot for over 170 years. We've been so blessed to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that we have in producing, but also just creating a love for agriculture in generations. That to us is sustainable. That's the conversion, not the conversion, the kind of the confluence between, in our understanding, what it means to protect the environment and what it means to create a product. There have been a lot of things that I've worked on throughout the years that are the confluence between those two. I think about the work we've done in water use in this state. If I'd have told you 10 years ago that right now you could go to a website through work at the Institute of Water Research, along with a lot of state agencies, private partners, and tell you that if you wanted to withdraw water at a rate greater than 70 gallons a minute, I could tell you within 30 seconds whether you have a high likelihood to create a negative impact on fish populations. Any place in the state, you simply drop a dot and get an understanding of what the impact is to the water resources. No. We wouldn't have been able to have that type of conversation without information technology. I wouldn't be able to show you in a high-resolution form if we could look at a farm holistically, we could look at agriculture at any scale holistically. Could we get a better understanding if we could focus conservation practices in a specific area, we could stop X amount of soil erosion. And with stopping X amount of soil erosion, could we get a better understanding of how to stop nutrients from leaving the field? We can. We can do that today. The difference between the amount of data we have and the knowing that comes from it. All those things I've just said, and yet, can I tell you on any scale how much nutrients leave a farm? Or what the contribution of agriculture is to an algal bloom that happens in Toledo? No. But people want to know. They don't just want to know, they want to understand it enough to be able to say, okay, I feel better. Think about the way that we've changed our understanding of agriculture and the understanding of what it means to the public when you converge those worlds together. Understanding, first of all, I just need enough food to survive. Second of all, I want to make sure that it's safe for consumption. Third, now I can ask questions about, okay, how was it made? How's the food that you're providing to me made? Because I'd like to continue to make choices. And we, in farming, are going to continue to provide that information and those products because, in the end, you're the customer. You decide. You have so much from a dialogue standpoint to touch base with each other, and so much information and so much data, but the only way that we'll come to a point of wisdom on how to use it and how to make it practical is through better wisdom. So the only way that we do this is to go together. We can run fast. God bless. You can be the best researcher in the world. You could be studying the state of the art. But anyone will tell you, and me from a person that hires people, if you can't communicate what you know, I'm not going to hire you. If you can't communicate what you understand by the data that you bring in a way that people will go grab a hold of it, and policymakers will make a change, people will fund what you're doing to better understand it, it doesn't become wisdom. From my standpoint, I've been blessed with working with a lot of people in this room. The dialogue, the opportunity to share and to daylight and to not be, to collaborate. I've spent a lot of years working on a program in the state to create an environmental assurance program for farmers. I think Emily might speak to that this afternoon. In developing that, I've understood that it's just as much of an importance that if we can't communicate better, both the farmers with the public and the public understanding of agriculture and the way that we produce products. It doesn't really matter in the end how much we think we know. And because it doesn't get applied, how do you continue to bridge that opportunity? MEEP was an opportunity for farmers to be proud of their achievements, to say, I've met a standard in the state, and to continue forward. It's growing. We're doing great things. We'll continue to do great things for as long as we talk with each other. If we don't, I think things fall to the wayside. That, to me, is what's sustainable. Hopefully this dialogue is sustainable, too. Hopefully you meet one person today that you think, boy, I ought to have lunch with that person. Or you hear one thing, just one thing that you would take home as you walk out this door and you'd make a phone call. You know what? This would be awesome. I was blessed with speaking at the World Nanotechnology Conference that happened 2 years ago at the University of Michigan. And why they wanted a farm kid that works in policy to come and speak to them, I don't know. But I did a lot of research on the state of nanotechnology in agriculture. And in doing that, I learned so much. I learned about how we've increased cotton production by an order of magnitude just by using nanoholes and magnets to better create cotton products. I learned about how different private companies are using what's called smart chip technology to put microchips inside of seed bags to monitor every plant's growth and development throughout the time that it's until harvest. Learned about the information technology that's involved at the nanoscale, and it's mind-blowing in the scale of its application. But what I most learned was about a person that does research at the University of Guelph in Canada that was a great friend to talk to. And he could help me to understand the work that they were doing and how excited he was about it. That's what stuck in my mind, that dialogue, that conversation. Take the opportunity today to talk to somebody, to take it a next step from just inside your head into the consciousness of other people. That's all I'd ask. I'm grateful for the opportunity to spend time with you this morning. My apologies, I have to go to my next commitment. You're blessed. Emily's a hell of a lot smarter than I am. And she's going to be here today with you, and she's going to talk a little bit more about some of the things we do at Farm Bureau. But so pleased, proud to be talking in front of some of my former professors. So any questions? I'd take anything you got, maybe not answer them all, but I'll do my best. Sir?
Yeah, I think you gave a very good information about the apple pickers. This is actually 20 hours per hour, 8 hours per day. Each day we'll get a lot of money. I will call the farmers.
Going to send some graduate students up there?
I think right now we try to feed the populations. The big challenge is that we have enough food, but we don't get it to the people. We just waste in the field during the process. So based on your opinion, how the information technology will facilitate such kind of transfer from farm to customers?
Again, I think it's through conversations and dialogue, the development of relationships. Because even if information technology shows that the biggest place in the world that needs food that doesn't have it is subcontinent Africa. Maybe that's the place where we just got to get more food. Until you get past the fact that people are scared to go there, that there's political unrest, that even if you send the bulk of the food someplace, that it's not going to go through the chain of the social structure to be able to get where it's most needed. From my standpoint, information technology enables conversations, just like this dialogue. In and of itself, it's just data. How many times, the other day, I had a wonderful graduate student from Turkey call and ask me about the research that I did a long time ago. And he asked for a copy of all my data. I had to really hunt to find that stuff. Data gets lost. And with all the data that you have, all the reams of information at the tips of your fingers, how much of it do we really take to that next step to truly implement at a political scale? My answer to you is information technology is a wonderful opportunity to begin a conversation, to measure the impact of an implemented policy decision, but in the end, it's only as good as the conversation and the need. We got a lot of work to do, and God bless it. There's a lot of great information out there. I hope that you take what you know and start feeding it to people that can take that next step with it. Thank you for your time.